Let's see how our discussion of inventories has played out recently. Take a look at the late 90s. You can see that business firms were adding between 50 and $100 billion of inventories every month. And so month after month, year after year, these inventories built up. In other words, sales were so strong in the late 90s that these technology companies were putting more and more goods on the shelf, building more and more goods, anticipating their sale. Well, they were anticipating their sale at a profit, of course. We know what happened. The profits weren't there. And when the profits weren't there, they cut back. And as firms began to individually cut back, of course, they found their own orders falling. And as a result, once the orders began to fall, a decision had to be made. Are we going to continue to build inventory in the anticipation of future sales? Or are we not? And what happened is, even as the firms began to cut back production, realizing their sales had weakened, all of a sudden they found they hadn't cut back production fast enough. And so even as they reduced production, inventories continued to build. And you can see that just before the collapse, there's this huge buildup of inventory. And then finally they cut back production severely enough that the recession is on. And of course, production falls drastically. We saw earlier that plunge in capacity utilization. And you can see during the depths of recession, these firms are liquidating every month $150 billion worth of inventory. And finally, they get rid of all their excess stocks. And as the economy begins to grow once again, they begin to build up their inventories once more. Now lately you can see inventories are growing again. It'll be your job to follow this indicator, follow the change in inventories, and watch out. If it stays and remains very strong, you'll have to decide if that's once again a sign of speculation. Your response to that might be, but wait a minute, how can we look at inventories in the abstract by itself? What about the sales of these firms? Good point. The very next chart we're going to look at is the inventory sales ratio.